the fear of judgment if a person does not go conform with the social parental expectations. No? Plus combined, keep in mind Saturn is the ruler of time and space. With a high degree of time, you have to expectations, gender expectations, / the need to conform in order not to be judged. Because of this time pressure, they very often make decisions in order to conform with these expectations and suppressing Saturn, their real, what they want to do. Make sense? That's what most people do. And then after the Saturn square Saturn.
Since I was 15, I got accepted, but they couldn't guarantee I would start training. And so then I thought, oh no, I need to be, that's not responsible enough. And so I ended up taking a job with a medical company where I make more money, and it was a really responsible, heavy traveling job.
After it's done, you have the first square. When you're 7 years old.
You can very much conscious, because I made a decision when I first got a return that I was going to be a writer and poet. That's what I was going to do, and I was very conscious decision. I remember all this other stuff. The astrology came into my life, and I thought, I think it's not always clear what's going on.
In mind, you have a Sagittarius or an emphasis area. That's, the archetype of synthesis, as well as not either or. Most people think of either or. Transiting Sagittarius, that we need to create our attitude as well as attitude, not either or. Any questions on other transits? Yeah.
What would it be this we talk about the importance of Mars transit? What would be the transit as squaring the
Well, at the time when in transit, relative to the subjective act of your desire from the soul, you go through a time where you re-experience an inner stress between what has come before and what shall come, as the next step. Well, of course, find just everything you know about the 12th house. And don't start with the word spiritual. No, just as a little hint. Illusions. Yeah. Yeah. Mars transit in the 12th house?
Mars transit in the 12th house.
What sign? Scorpio.
0 degrees right now. The node in the 9th house. In the 3rd house.
See, the thing is, it's good to work it's work to, to take one piece out of the cake, and to work with that. But to have like a whole, complete, first thing that comes into my mind here, that right now she's going, or it's on the process of a nodal axis return. Yeah? Nodal axis return. Yeah? South node right now being Aquarius. In transit. Yeah? And then I like Pluto is because this starts, because it's the most intense movement relative to our evolution. It's like when you go in a concert, you're like, the bass constantly. You don't pay attention to it, but it's the leading rhythm of all the other melodies being played in a symphony or a rock concert. So it's like the very, very essential vibe relative to your evolution. Oh, it's right? Sorry.
It's very close to the ascendant.
Close to the ascendant?
Yeah, it's like 4 degrees from the ascendant. So you would like to know the transiting Pluto or the later Pluto?
Transiting Pluto. Well, of course, then to put it together, you first have to see the natal chart to understand what this individual evolutionary intention is, to then understand what the Pluto in transit does right now.
So you can
Yeah, of course. A Pluto transit for you is not the same as a Pluto transit for me, even though we would be like same ascendant. That's why those cookbooks don't work. They don't. Another practical hint, what I always look to is like, each of the transiting planet, what house does Mars rule? The sixth house in her case. Yeah? And it's transiting, like, the 12th house. You have Pluto in 9th house? And transiting Pluto house? Already in the second house?
Yeah, already.
House Cuspis, Sag?
That's 3 degrees.
Why don't you think different colors for the planets would be easier for us?
Really? The natal ones are inside, but they are outside.
Okay, but on the top you don't have any room for the outside.
Right now there aren't any transits. There aren't any transits going on.
Are you sure?
Yeah, very sure. Well, just the transiting north node. Venus. Yeah. Anyway. What degrees is Pluto?
12 degrees. Conjuncting Uranus 5 degrees.
Where's this one?
Second house, 20 degrees.
Sag?
Yeah.
Huh?
Mercury in Capricorn is 0 degrees. Saturn is in the 4th house, 8
What?
degrees. In Aquarius.
What?
Saturn, even Saturn. It's in Aquarius in 8 degrees.
Shall we take your whole chart and then integrate, or just have like a part of it right now?
Yeah.
You just started with a question, what does it mean when Mars is like transiting, boom, boom, boom. Do you have any planets transiting, squaring natally your node?
That's Mars right now.
No, but natally.
Oh, the node, squaring the node, no.
No? Okay.
The south node is conjunct to the south node is conjunct to Saturn.
Oh, no, here we go. 62?
8 degrees.
Boring 62?
Yeah.
See, basically, me personally, when I prepare for reading, this is the major transits that I always draw, outside. Natal Pluto, transiting Neptune, transiting Uranus, transiting Saturn, and the transiting nodes. That gives you so much information about what is going on. Huh?
Because they are the lower moving planets.
Yeah.
So you can sometimes.
Yeah, and I don't give like a reading for transits. I don't do that like most astrologers do. Yeah, they do like one basic reading, and then they can come like every year, pay money, for the transits. Bullshit. I integrate that in one. Okay. So natally Pluto is making inconjuncture with Saturn, huh?
Squaring the Pluto. Pluto squares Pluto.
Oh yeah. First, we need to understand briefly what is this chart about. Otherwise, we can't integrate the transits. Maybe another important thing in this chart we should draw down is Venus, Neptune conjunction, first house, Scorpio.
How can you read this?
It's quite it's important. Do you see a repeating story in the natal chart? All over again, relative to what has come before? Yeah? Where?
Aquarius, obviously a lot of Aquarius stuff going on.
So we have Pluto in the 11th house, the South Node in Aquarius, repeating theme, and the ruler in Aquarius conjuncting Pluto. What kind of conjunction is it? Balsamic. Yeah, again in the 11th house. That what has come before. What is the intention in this life?
Breakthrough from liberating from...
The intention in this life? Where's the Pluto polarity point?
Power.
Yeah. Where do we find the North Node? What house? Where do we find the Sun? Is that a repeating story? Yeah? Simple. And we find the natural ruler of the second house, which is always Venus. We find it in first house, conjuncting Neptune. We have probably Jupiter in the fifth house. What degree?
6 degrees.
6. Does it give a space? Pluto's on 12 degrees? Yeah. Jupiter's in 6 degrees? What kind of an opposition is that? What is this chart about? Pluto opposing, with all the resolution being in the fifth house where Jupiter is, yeah, the Pluto polarity points making conjunction to Jupiter. What could that mean?
Like completely honest with what you believe in.
Yeah?
Standing alone is necessary.
Standing alone is necessary. The fifth house. Could it be creating a lifestyle that is totally reflecting her inner, simple truth about what she is? As Jupiter ruler of the second house? Yeah? Can you see that? Yeah? That's the intention for the soul to become like totally re-embracing its very inner, essential, simple wisdom or natural law. So if that is the sole intention in this life, what happened before with the Pluto in the 11th house conjuncting Uranus, with the South Node in Uranus, with Saturn on it, in conjuncting that Pluto? What happened before? I just showed, what the intention is in this life, to totally reactivate her inner natural law and to create a lifestyle that is totally reflecting her inner truth. No? So if that is the intention for this life, Pluto polarity point, what happened before with the Pluto in the 11th house, in Virgo, conjuncting Uranus, in Virgo, with a South Node in Aquarius, which ruler Uranus stands there again, with a Saturn on the South Node, in conjuncting that Pluto.
Persecuted for the real way.
Yeah.
It's been growing via trauma.
Yeah, and crises. Yeah. Why?
I was a nun.
Of course you were a nun. But what does it take to be a nun?
Sacrifice.
Sacrifice of what? No. Everything is seen in the chart. Sacrifice is Neptune. When I ask what, then you can answer Venus, Scorpio, or first house. If possible, all of it. Personal need and desire. Sexual and the denial of any need to be sexual with a physical body, yeah? Yeah? In order to then what? To cut off. Uranus? Huh? Castration? No, it's cutting off the emotional body.
That's the way you get liberation through the emotional body.
Mm-hmm.
It's in about family conjunction.
Yeah. But doesn't it show that, she had to cut off certain things because of, expectation, how she should be, or whenever she expressed her kind of, this kind of thought, she got judged, persecuted, alienated. Yeah? Mm-hmm. You see that? That she was not allowed to be in her strength.
Uranus conjunct Pluto in the 11th, in Virgo in the south, Aquarius conjunct Saturn. It's like there's a lot of air, a lot of mental activity.
Sure.
So they don't have too much integration into the physical.
No, because the physical was forbidden for so many lifetimes. But there were also, incarnations where because we see a soul that were totally rebelling against Saturn. Yeah? So sometimes she also broke free to live her own lifestyle. And what kind of lifestyle could that have been with the ruler of the South Node conjuncting Pluto in Virgo, relative to Venus, Neptune, Scorpio, first house?
On the run?
On the run? Yeah?
They're hiding.
Hiding?
She has secret stuff.
Yeah, of course. Or sex for money. We see prostitution.
Oh.
What do you have to do in order to be a good prostitute? From what? Yeah.
Do you still, at this thought that, do you think they, whatever, realize their liberation through the emotional body?
No. Does patriarchy realize that really?
I mean, you can control people so easily when you cut them off.
That's the reason why it was cut off. That's the reason why the religious.
Liberation comes to the leaders and
People in control.
cut that off. So people
Like the church leader.
From my personal point of view, yes. From my personal point of view, yes.
Yeah, I think
Yeah. Sure. Sure.
would that be also a signature for slavery?
Yeah.
They are in conjunction.
The whole picture. Mm-hmm. So she went through a whole lot of shit. Yeah. Being highly traumatized. In order to feel secure, self-knowledge, she always, has to go into this mental level. Yeah? Yeah, can you see that? So what is the life intention? Just to make it very brief. We always started with Pluto, polarity point, North Node in Leo, with the South Node in the second house, in Sagittarius.
It could reactualize the security within based on who she really is naturally versus the patriarchal overlay.
Yeah.
And to build the security upon that.
Mm-hmm.
For your values and create a new value system that's completely natural.
Yeah. That is completely natural to herself, that is in every given moment totally re-empowering her. Even to the extent to stand totally alone.
And to get in touch with those values is going to change their whole belief system as well.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because their belief system is an absolute.
So the focus on the second house, relative to what we, just described very briefly, not very deep, but just briefly. Second house.
she could be a teacher communicating about this.
Communicating with the Mercury, yeah. But what does she need to do first? Second house. Yeah. Nice words. How shall she do it?
Tell yourself over and over. Tell yourself.
Okay, that's a possibility. What else? Listening to her intuition in every given moment. Listening to what? To the mind thing that comes? The abstract? To the body, and what in the body especially? No. No, what, the sensation, thank you. To always have a conscious focus in an inner dialogue onto how does it feel right now. Feel, second house. Is it strengthening me or is it weakening me? If it's weakening me, no thanks. In order to be self-reliant. In every given moment.
And everybody on the house says that it should feel good.
And only. Yeah. And simple and smiley and, But that isn't brand new to her, because with a Saturn on the south node, joy was not the key in the previous life.
That's very close to my
Joy? But here we see a soul that has been in deep grief. Grief. Suffering. Yeah?
You also have to be really, really strong because the Mercury could also, is that Mercury Capricorn?
Yeah, Mercury Capricorn.
Yeah, for people still trying,
Sure.
still in this life.
Sure. Which is an out picture for her own doubts relative to her own value. That as soon as she starts to glimpse a little bit happiness or joy, she thinks she needs or deserves punishment, crises, being cut off, That's an old security pattern. It's not a new security pattern to lean back and just feel well, constantly. I don't know if the nodes are they in 0 degree? They are? No. It's also that it's new.
Being the North Node in the 9th house would be I have to develop the 9th house and the ruler of the 9th house.
Sure. The 9th house and the ruler is in the 2nd house Sagittarius. So the sun in Sagittarius in the 2nd house shows you how to use the jack to change the wires or the wheels on the car.
The nodes are at 0 degree, you shouldn't say always.
Go retrograde. Yeah. It is old, but it's new. This one is new to her.
It's actually,
Yeah.
the North Node is actually conjunct in this pattern. It's right in this pattern.
Okay. But it's still in the 9th house. Yeah. So it's still 9th house. Do you get an idea for that? Yeah? What else could we recommend to her?
The life of hedonism.
Lots of masturbation.
Lots of masturbation.
Yeah.
Lots and lots and lots of masturbation. Without feeling guilty.
You see the theme in there of sacrifice with that Jupiter in Pisces, and in the 9th house Cancer, the moon in Cancer, and they're finding her securities in her belief system. Her belief system is totally being adapted into one must sacrifice totally and completely for God. So, but yet finding all her security in the fact that she sacrifices. Even the ruler of the 2nd house, Sagittarius, is that Jupiter in Pisces in the 5th opposing Pluto. And, your greatest resource up till now has been seen as when I can sacrifice. And being rewarded for that 5th house, being acknowledged for that sacrifice.
Actually, I've been, there's been sacrifice, but more has been rebel. But standing alone thing has been, since I was little, it's always very different from the society. So I have to stand alone since I can remember standing on my feet. So the sacrifice was that I had to choose either to be myself or to confront the society. And I chose to be myself. And that was a huge thing, a huge cost. I didn't have friends. I mean, friends actually.
You can kind of see that in the conjunction Saturn too, as far as that wanting to now be the standing of the alienated one versus conforming back in.
Or to have old pattern of security being recreated to give oneself a feeling of security by standing outside of the society, by suffering from being like, very special. You know what I mean? That's not the intention of this here. This is integration. Integration. Not cutting off.
It is conjunction they have to integrate it.
Your personal truth into the society. Yeah. And bring in all these, suppressed ideas that she had for many lifetimes that have been judged, because she was just very often ahead of time. She also had huge physical trauma. Where's Mars in the natal chart?
In Leo, in the 11th.
In Leo in the...
Sorry. Leo in the 10th at 23 degrees.
This is the right year.
As a rule of the 6th. And we have a Saturn on the south node. So, like, a little repeating story? Family issues. Yeah? Humiliation. Anyway. So it's also like healing, from the sexual traumas to integrate via the sensual body everything what she inherently is in order to heal. To heal. To be simple, not hyper. To be simple. And to embrace incredible ability to be like very psychic / intuitive. That she had to totally detach from previous life because whenever she expressed her personal truth, she was persecuted, criticized, cut off, punished, put into mental hospitals. Mental hospital? Can you see that? Yeah?
Isn't the 12th house more like mental hospital?
No. Okay. Good. So now Pluto is it okay? Is it enough? I mean, I don't want to dive like totally into it because, we don't want to dump this.
Like lots of examples.
Yeah, okay. I mean, in a I would start to sneak forward, to see how much the memories are about what has happened, also, not only in previous lives, but also in this life. And of course, I would ask questions about family members. Huh? Father, sibling. Huh? And then in later life, about pregnancy. If she ever was pregnant. Because I see implied children. Huh? Maybe an enforced abortion. What does that do to someone whose Venus, heart chakra, is so hypersensitive, Neptune? Doesn't that create an emotional state of self-hatred, Scorpio in the first place? Yeah? Makes sense? A can of worms like in the heart chakra, because it's feeling guilty? Isn't the Pluto polarity point in Pisces, which is also the essence of forgiveness? Yeah? And to understand the whole picture, Jupiter, what the causative factors were to maybe have a abortion done, which was probably an act of self-responsibility. Could be. Yeah. And then to ignite a certain healing process to reopen the heart energy, the vitality. And not always a certain kind of, sadomasochistic pattern that every time when I start to feel happy, I feel that I'm, I mustn't because of this overlayer of guilt. Yeah? Make sense? Yeah? Something like that. I would ask about siblings, brother, sister, uncle, Saturn in Aquarius, extended family members. Yeah? I would ask about if in early childhood, to get like the big picture from previous lives into this life, if she had been detached or, cut off of the family nurturing when she was a child. Or maybe being sent somewhere. To an uncle, grand uncle, anything. How did she then deal with the emotional reality, being a stranger while needing to be nurtured? All that. To just open up the personal story, not to be like only abstract. And why? To initiate her personal life to accept what she naturally is and to see the big picture, to then access and healing. That's the beauty about evolutionary astrology, that you can see, where you need to go with it, with a client. And then to find a strategy to somehow, open up these things. Anyway. So, now Pluto, I would for sure like to start with Pluto in transit.
Going through her second house, it's like she's going to have a totally another archetyping of everything that she does.
Yeah, of all our need structure. With what intention? Pluto transit. What does Pluto do? That's more like Jupiter.
Deep transformation.
Deep transformation, nice word. How do they work?
Because the pain and the dark side, and it forces you to deal with it. Things all rebuild. Shit, back up a little leftover. So it's kind of good for unhealthy self-sacrifice.
Yeah.
Not taking care of her sensual needs. Her sensual needs are going to come. That's actually the biggest issue.
Yeah.
Sensual is going to come big time right now, and how she deals with it, and getting in touch with her body, and her approach to sensuality, etc., all that stuff. Okay, and realign that naturally with her natural self, which she has to do.
Yeah. Yeah. But see, in the first place, Pluto being the archetype of evolution, to grow beyond some certain limitations. Limitations as an archetype, we find, in the Earth sign, especially like in the second house. My limited value system. Scorpio is the opposite sign of Taurus. And now we see a Pluto transiting the second house. So she's been constantly confronted with her belief system relative to her own limitations, relative to what she gives meaning to, relative to what she's learned in the past, to judge herself for what she needs and not, and then to hide certain things. Yeah? So you're right, all this old shit comes up. Yeah? In order to what? To eliminate Pluto, everything which is not her. To then dig a certain new path in her inner orientation towards herself, to when Pluto's going to hit the sun, to even make a kind of loop, to open up latent capacities that she was not allowed to live so far.
And she gets in touch with them through her sensuality
Yeah.
and sexuality.
Yeah.
And that's going to deepen her own natural sense of self and metamorphose her own belief system.
Yeah. Yeah. And see, I don't know if Jeffrey mentioned that. From my point of view, Pluto is walking on this carpet, Sagittarius. Yeah? Boom, 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 boom. The ruler of that carpet gets in vibration too, no matter if there's an aspect or not. Yeah. You know what I mean? So since Pluto is in transit through Sagittarius, all our Jupiters, no matter where they are jumping in the same matter. Make sense? Yeah? If Clinton, as the ruler of the United States, is somewhere in Russia and hears something big, a catastrophe happens, he will not have tea with, Russia president. You know what I mean? He's going to be in stress too. Okay? Yeah?
Could that also be felt on the Taurus house, the seventh house, and Taurus is there?
No. Yeah. Because of the second house nature. Yeah. And if we go back in time, when 3 degrees is her second house cusp, when Pluto was like in advance already before, 5 degrees, yeah, and now it's like 5 degrees after, the second house, think of that like a spider web, yeah, and Pluto was pulling on that string. The whole chart got in vibration. The whole chart. If there were aspects to house cusp, the whole chart is vibration. Huh? But relative to where, the boom, 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 boom kind of thing happens in the second house. Yeah? And that makes her sixth house also vibrate, no matter if there's an aspect or not. And it makes also vibrate the planets in that house, and especially the planets on this carpet, Sagittarius. If I'm Pluto right now and I'm booming, booming, booming here, yeah? And you sit on this carpet, let's say this is like Sagittarius, you feel the vibration already, even though I'm not boom, boom close to you yet. You know what I mean? So the sun is already in vibration. And because there's conjunction, Happy Mercury is also in vibration. Yeah? And the sun is the ruler of the 10th house. So what is probably one big question or dynamic she's going through since a couple times, or since like recently?
How she makes her money.
How she makes her money, second house, what else? Her career, sun, rule of the 10th house. Father issue, could be, or family issue, yeah.
To express herself because of the Jupiter and the 5th.
Yeah.
Career and how she makes her money.
Okay.
One be a real extension of who she creatively is.
Becoming aware of her inner ambivalence between what she does for a living and her real belief, what she really is. The old conflict becomes, put back into the face. And relative to the conflict that was denied for so long, Jupiter in Pisces, the first reaction will be to detach from that. Yeah? You know what I mean? To slip into the old survival issues. That's what Pluto transit does. It's threatening us most of the time. Because the intention is to evolve beyond our limitations. And we don't like that. You know what I mean? So this moment when this threat comes, we go like, no. Yeah? And by holding on to that, we can be sure that it's going to be boom, exploding. Yeah? That's cataclysmic. Because Jupiter, the ruler in Pisces, we can probably say that she's going since quite a while through, from time to time, quite intense, cataclysmic, emotional turmoil, I would call it. Yeah? Can you see that? Yeah?
Was Florida born on the beach?
No?
No. Why did you say that? But is the time zone and stuff correct?
The time zone, I don't know. No, it's not.
But is the chart correct?
I got Jupiter in the 5th house.
Yeah, it's wrong.
It's in the 4th, and I got Pluto and Uranus in the 11th house, and I think the rest is fine except the moon is at 15.
What's your rising sign? You're Scorpio rising.
I'm Scorpio rising.
What degree?
At 5 degrees.
Is Saturn in the third?
Saturn in the 4th right now.
Oh, would you put it time?
Huh?
What is your real time?
3 a.m. In Pico. 3 a.m. in Pico.
You put Saturn in the third.
Huh? No, Saturn's in the 3rd. This one is wrong.
No, Saturn is in the 4th.
Oh, it's in the 4th? But your ruler's in...
I got Aquarius at 0 degrees.
Oh. So how can your nose be in the 3rd house?
Because I got 0 degrees 8 minutes.
Oh.
And the house got 0 degrees 49 minutes. 49 minutes.
That Saturn is in the 4th conjunct the 3rd house of cosmos.
So Uranus is here in transit.
Uranus is there and Neptune is there too.
Sorry, Jordan. And Neptune is right here. Okay.
No. 0 degrees.
Do we need a break first?
Yeah.
So let's just start with imagine Gloria would like crawl into the counseling office. These are the best readings when they literally come crawling because they're emotionally open to receive, any kind of new perspective. That's much better than those, people that come in with a stuck-up attitude, astrology, and I'm just curious if he sees that like 3 years ago I had an accident, I give a shit to that.
And by the finally know that you had an accident 2 years ago.
Huh? Yeah. Or can you see what star sign I am? No. Why? This little quiz games. Anyway. So she's coming in and just looking at the natal chart, you see what the intention is and just finding Pluto in transit going through her 2nd house. By that activating not only the 2nd house where we find the ruler of the North Node in there, but also activating Jupiter, the ruler of her 2nd house, as the ruler of Sagittarius, which stands in opposition to Pluto and being on the right on the Pluto polarity point. In this moment, we know that this reading, or this time where she's going through, is an essential time. You know what I mean? Essential. It's not going to be like a chitter-chatter kind of reading. Yeah? Yeah? Good. So what would you tell her relative to Pluto transiting her second house? Already in the process. See what I do, just from a Virgo practical point of view? When I get the chart out of the printer, I draw within the transiting planets, and then I go to look for major aspects that it makes, and I draw them next to that. So I don't have like a second list with transits, but I'm very visual, so I need to see it in one chart. So I would in the preparation, I would go, okay, Pluto's here 9 degrees. Of course I see second house, I don't need to state that, but I see there's going to be the square to Pluto, yeah? And because to me it's already in the orb of operation, yeah? It was like, Pluto was 10 degrees, yeah? That's 2 degrees applying to the natal Pluto. So she felt it already. It's like a thunderstorm that showed up but didn't hit the city, but just, you know what I mean? But she has an idea that there's something happening. And it's going to be a major, major thing. Why? Not only by the fact that if Pluto squares Pluto, it's one of the most intense transits one can experience. It's very similar, like Pluto going through the 8th house. Huh? Confrontation with your own deepest security issues, relative to eliminate every desire, where you over-identify with certain outer subjects relative to what you have invested in the past, in order to have the doors be opened for further evolution. Make sense? It's just Pluto material. Just mix it like a cocktail. But why is it going to be so important for her?
It's also squaring Uranus, ruler.
Yeah? I go there in a sec. Yeah?
Because of Venus and Scorpio in one, because that's the same archetype. Like Pluto in two.
Pluto in 2 is like, Venus Scorpio. Yeah, we can see that. But even, look always when especially when transiting Pluto hits another planet, i.e. here, squaring the natal Pluto. Please have a look where the natural rulership of that natal planet is. Which house is going to be affected by that? Do you know what I mean? The first house. Yeah? So now we see Pluto in transit, boom, 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 to the ruler of her first house, which is her life in general. No? Pardon me?
Love life.
Love life. Everything, that has to do with her subjective needs, desires, her need for independency, yeah? Her instinctual nature, and the fact that we're all in a constant process of becoming. Yeah? Cardinal. It's a cardinal house. Therefore, there's naturally a tremendous need for absolute freedom to then act upon the instincts whenever they come up, relative to Pluto going through a second house through her natural needs. So we can see what's going to come up within the next year. Can you see that? Yeah?
Would this square make her feel really insecure about taking steps or moving forward?
Yeah.
Because she's feeling that contemplation?
Yeah. It's not a nice feeling to have a constant feeling of being in an earthquake.
But isn't she used to it?
She,
A little bit from the sun square to Pluto?
yes, a little bit, but the challenge now is to make sure that the ruler of her north node, meaning, I always called the evolutionary jack, to grow beyond, to, activate the Pluto priority point. This is now the major time where Pluto in transit is going to apply to the sun, the ruler of the north node. You get? Yeah? She's used to that, but now she has to make decisions, Pluto, not to react in the old pattern, but in a new way. Make sense? The north node has not been activated in previous life. There's no T-square. So it's in a brand new way. Huh? Brand new. Relative to all the challenges where she was used emotionally, Pluto, south node, to react in a way like, i.e., mental detachment, yes, when there was emotional stress, yeah, relative to her survival, yeah, all that. And now it's going to be like a new, brand new form of integration. And how beautiful, look how beautiful it's put together, while Pluto is now, starting to make this Pluto square Pluto, going through the second house, which she started to get used to. Already done the Pluto square to Jupiter. That's passed, but still in vibration. Yeah? Because of the orb, 6 degrees. Yes? And because of the rulership of Jupiter over Sagittarius, where Pluto goes through. So Jupiter will stay in operation, but the major square is over. What kind of a square was it?
Sexual square.
A sexual square? What is that? Okay, I heard crisis in action. Last quarter square. Crisis in belief. Yeah? Can you see that? Jupiter, the natal Jupiter, becomes the zero basis, the point of reference. And Pluto in transit has passed the 270 degrees. Can you see that? Yeah? Basis? So she has been going through and still is in, because Pluto in transit relative to the Jupiter is now in the last quarter phase. Huh? She's still in a crisis of belief. Yeah? With a square to Pluto in Virgo, crises. Yeah? With Pluto transiting, can you see how we uncover a repeating story? And the other beautiful thing to me is that she has a nodal axis return that hasn't happened yet. Hmm? The nodes right now are in 16 degrees something. Yeah? Aquarius, Leo. Her nodes are in 0 degrees. Yeah? So in what kind of phase is the transiting nodal axis relative to her balsamic phase, culmination? Make sense? Good. So I would write this Pluto square is like the most important thing to me. I see squaring Jupiter, and I would draw a little S behind that. It's separating. So I see in the reading that the major stress is already over, but she's still in the process. Yeah?
Would it help her to look back to those points to see what was brought to her awareness?
Yeah. So that we can create, for her a picture. She's a person that, loves to objectify, to watch her own movie. So if we now go back in time, Saturn archetype, in order to go forward, we need to go backwards. If we go back during the reading a little bit in time and talk about personal experiences, since Pluto is like going for the second house, squaring that Jupiter, she then can put the things together. Especially for someone who has Pluto in Virgo or emphasized Virgo archetype, it's always good in a reading to, take a couple of minutes to make the client look back on what they already have accomplished. Yeah? Because Pluto Virgo naturally is always orientated onto what is lacking, not what has been accomplished. Right? Exactly. All this crap. And keeping in mind that she has a sun in Sagittarius and a moon in the 9th house. That's the archetype of restlessness, always looking for the new horizon. Very often intuitively sensing that something will rise soon on my path, but it's still behind the horizon. Yeah? That's the ever growth. Yeah? So it's good to have her a break and to reflect a little bit about it.
Different, what kind of feelings does she have with the Pluto square Pluto versus the Pluto conjunct the Sun? She said the Pluto square Pluto is the most powerful thing. Can you look at it?
Powerful in terms of it can be really exhausting because we're dealing with water archetype. It's the inner confrontation that the soul starts to confront itself with the own over-identifications relative to desires that have been lived out already. If I have the desire to sit in this chair, I invest energy to sit on this chair, then I sit on this chair, and of course, because of the Scorpio archetype, I want to stay in this chair. It gives me deep feeling of security. Then I build up resistance to move on. In her terms, because we see that as it is planned, let me phrase it this way, she first has to go through this deep emotional self-concentration cleansing process for then the latent capacity to arise in our consciousness. To first get rid of old crap. You know what I mean? Yeah. So very often if she's like in the flow with us, the contact with Jupiter, Pluto conjunction the Sun is not as intense as squaring the Pluto.
Can she experience that first?
Yes.
What if it was the reverse? What if she had the conjunction first and then she was...
Well, then it would be that she first discovers any kind of new potential that she wants to actively integrate in her lifestyle. Yeah? And while integrating, then afterwards comes the emotional purging of letting go of old over-identifications. If I was all of a sudden figure out that I'm, a healer, then probably that will have an effect on me being an astrologer. You know what I mean? So my astrology kind of work will change. Because my focus goes into what I just discovered. The problem will be that Pluto, and we would have to lift it up in the ephemeris, Pluto when it's going to hit the Sun, keeping in mind that's the rule of the 10th house, it probably goes like contact direct, retrograde, direct, retrograde, direct. New phase, balsamic, new phase, balsamic, new phase. That's the pain in the ass. Pluto transits making conjunctions is really a pain in the ass. Because you're culminating an old cycle, or you always step into the new cycle, then you're thrown back into the old cycle to make sure that everything is, culminated, perched, clean. In the new cycle, you have the feeling, hey, I've been already on my new land. I started already my new life, and then going back into the old. That's very frustrating. Good. It's just practical. So, now she comes in the office. Oh. Your turn.
What would you look at after seeing the Pluto transit? Which planet would you go for?
Well, I would try to integrate that. I do it in the natural order of Pluto, Neptune, Uranus. As Jeff said today, a Pluto transit in our times, as Pluto being so fast in the sky, takes like roughly around 5 years. 5 degrees applying before aspect being precise, and 5 degrees separating. But because Pluto goes back, forth, we have to figure out when, by time, if we want to be anal or Mercury-like, when the middle is. And for that very center of the time frame of the Pluto transit, there's a time frame roughly around 18 months. Is anything out there in the sky that moves 18 months? Venus? What else? 18 months is a year and a half, right?
Mercury?
18 months going through a sign, the node. The node. No? So we can also look like in my case last year, and the year before, Pluto in transit was right on my south node on my Mercury. The very essence of that transit was combined with this 18-month center of the node going through Pisces, Virgo, and hitting at the very essence of that transit my natal Saturn and my natal Moon. So everything that was going through Pluto transiting Mercury, the metamorphosis of my mental structure, Mercury being the ruler of my 6th house, relative to my lived reality, my routines, had to do with me on an emotional level coming in contact with my idealism, 12th house, my reality, And at the very essence there, Saturn in 12th, Moon in 6th, with my imprint and a double standard relative to my parents, relative to my own inner double standard between matriarchal and patriarchal. No? Make sense? So got the picture? So very much here, if we see, okay, right now, Pluto is in the process of squaring her Pluto. Huh? And she's already in the center of this 18 months, or getting over that, preparing. Yeah. We see that the transiting nodes are right now going through Aquarius, with South Node Aquarius and North Node Leo. That goes all, do you get the picture? Yeah? Her inner confrontation with her value system, with her belief system, with how she designs her life structure relative to her beliefs, and da. She's experiencing with a South Node transiting right now the 3rd house. No. The 4th house, I'm sorry. The 4th house. Yeah? And North Node transiting the 10th house. This is the house of family, parents, society, da. Do you get it?
Yes.
There's a repeating story again. She has a Saturn conjunct in the South Node. Saturn being in the 4th house. A Mars being in the 10th house. Yeah? Okay. So let's put that's a little bit together. Was that too much Virgo information? No? Just like practice. And keep in mind that Neptune has just recently hit her 4th house cusp. What could that mean?
I can't remember my dad. Disillusionment with the family structure.
Could be, yeah.
Could be something to do with your home country, that you're kind of feeling that you want to move? With my home country? Yeah. Actually, to actualize yourself? What I feel is happening is more like I've been having this fear of death for a while, and I don't know if it's my death or somebody of my family, or it's because Mars is in that 12th house, or something dying within me. And so it's a lot of death to choose from, and I'm not so sure which one to go. But actually, even though my country has been the hardest place to live for me, because I haven't seen it, I know that's the place where I have to integrate and do my work. And after working like for 6 years in this new phase, finally when you plant something, then you harvest. I'm harvesting what I planted 6 years ago, and finally my work has picked up a lot. Work-wise, I'm doing very, very well. Still that sense of death has not left me, and I think it has to do with either one of those deaths, but something's happening regarding that.
Well, I'd like a dissolving of her, of the structure that she's been secure with, internal security.
Very good. Where Neptune hits, especially in the 4th house cusp, a dissolving / healing. Neptune being the archetype of God / the divine. No? Now we see Aquarius 4th house cusp, with the ruler Uranus conjuncting, balsamic conjuncting Pluto in Virgo in the 11th house. What was the emotional security about when she was a child? Relative to her gender. Saturn on the 4th house cusp.
Being a tomboy or something, or the father was qualified.
What?
She was made to feel less than because she was a female.
Mm-hmm.
That's what was
Well, I was a tomboy. I still am, and I like it. But that was not appreciated by the society. I had to be a female, and I didn't see it. I didn't see it anywhere. So I was not. My father supported me all the way. My mother wanted me to be very female-like, and I think that most of the society didn't. I felt less because men wouldn't look at me as a woman. And women wouldn't care to be friends with me because I was a tomboy. So it was like I have to be by myself, basically.
The key word is once again alienation. Yeah?
Climbing trees, playing soccer, doing the things the men only do.
Lauze Dinge. Lauze Dinge.
I can't, loud banger?
Dinge.
Was her sense of feeling ending or death, would that also be the Pluto volcanic to her sun transiting Pluto?
I don't think so. Yes, maybe, but you know, it's not in my little Virgo list of priorities. I wouldn't see it as a priority. More like probably Pluto already starting to square the Pluto. The nodal axis going in a balsamic phase to the nodal axis. And especially Neptune on the 4th house cusp. What is going to be healed? Aquarius on the 4th house cusp. Her emotional body relative to being a female. Or androgynous. Yeah? And always being judged. No matter where she was. Huh?
Would that be healed by reaching self-reliance or self-actualization or whatever?
That can be reached by allowing the emotional body to be healed. In this terms, it's more... That's one way.
Somebody was saying, it was last night, like making a date with yourself.
Well, I think I would have been healed by now.
Working on perfect health, are you?
Working on what?
No, perfect health.
No, okay.
What degree is your Venus?
Both. 14, 14.
The inner child starts to become healed in the process of her soul confronting herself with a survival belief system to eliminate everything which is not her very essence to activate her life. By that she starts to heal from what? Aquarius on the 4th house cusp with Uranus conjuncting Pluto in Virgo in the 11th. And Pluto being the ruler of the 1st house. One keyword of Aquarius, or yeah, more like in terms of healing right now. Just make brainstorming, then it might come. No. Pardon me? If we see right now something is healing. Healing the alienation. Going deeper.
No, I had it.
Alienation of social alienation or inner alienation.
The trauma, nowhere to be safe.
Exactly. That's the trauma to be nowhere in a state of emotional safety. Therefore, I need always to be in an emotional state of alert. Aquarius. Can you see that? Yeah?
But it's inner because it's the 4th house, right?
Yeah, but of course. But, you know, the outer world is nothing else than a stupid joke for our inner world.
Especially certain parts of the outer world.
Yeah.
So you're saying that her emotional, foundation has always been based on being different.
Being more or less forced
To be different. So
to not fit in,
she's not feeling
to be alienated.
comfortable with that.
She learned to be comfortable with it. She learned to deal with emotional pain
And that's
and validating that as being normal for her. But it's not. Under that mental statement of, you know, having arranged myself to that, there's emotional suffering. Crises. Emotional crises. Yeah?
And that's what she's going to deal with.
That's to learn to lean back. Yeah? To emotionally relax. This is a body that's always in a state of hyper or alert. Why?
Trauma.
Of course of trauma. What kind of trauma? Not me.
So you're going for right now.
You know, if we talk, you know, it's going to heal something, and she told that she has a fear or a fear. I have jump. Yeah, maybe someone in your family might die. Da 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 da. outer world is a picture for the inner world. And Aquarius is a type of memory. Yeah, memory. On the fourth house card, emotional memory. So where's her fear of someone might die or the fear of death really rooted in? Yeah. Her, and in this life. Say it again, she didn't hear it.
Of your own death. But you know what, one thing that I noticed about you...
Hold on. Let's skip, because we just had an emotional touch. Yeah, ma'am? That she had learned, or had a death experience, an emotional death experience in this life. That problem has been repeated from time to time, again and again. Yeah? And that's going to be healed now.
She doesn't know consciously what it is?
No.
Oh, she doesn't?
No.
That's why I think truthful.
It's put where? It's put where? Aquarius on the fourth house cusp, with Uranus in the 11th. Where is the memory? In the individual subconscious. Exactly.
Now, why would you...
And Saturn is on that, making sure that it does not rise. Yeah? Now let's go back in time. That's the beauty about astrology. Uranus was hitting that Saturn. Yeah? Yeah? Kicked his butt. Hey, Saturn, you can't control the emotional memory anymore because I'm fucking sick of being controlled, Saturn. I want to liberate from everything which has come before. Therefore, I start emotional shocks. Emotional fourth house shocks, Uranus. Yeah? In order to trigger out the old memories that have been suppressed in the emotional body, that kept her away from her real natural lifestyle, from her real, you know what I mean? Does that make sense? Yeah? So like the last couple of years, or like at least a year, there has been like living in a constant emotional state of earthquake. Yeah? And everything that she had defined, which is security for her, did not work anymore. Yeah? Which was re-triggering out the old traumas. It's a memory. It seems to be new, but it's only a memory. It's a memory of the emotional body that now wants to come to consciousness to then be eliminated, yeah, in order to have room for her real lifestyle and to be healed. Does it make sense?
Yeah.
So now we're getting close to, you know, that we see a metamorphosis happening. Metamorphosis is a complete change of form. It's not wearing a new dress. Huh? Make sense?
Yeah, that's total sense.
What kind of traumas?
What kind of traumas have been happening
Uh-huh.
just recently? Or is that...
We're talking about early childhood imprint, fourth house cusp.
Okay.
Yeah?
I'm thinking about the mother.
Mother?
Then,
Mother and, because Saturn is there, father. What degrees is Saturn?
8.
8 degrees, okay.
Could it be homeland?
Of course. Yeah, homeland.
Even her home. And like, I mean, with Uranus just moving in there.
Yeah.
And then it turned out with Uranus.
Mm-hmm.
But do you think really that she, because of the nature of the Saturn and all, that she just unconsciously wants to call it the land and not bring it into the home?
Sure.
She doesn't want us to get too close.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
that, so we don't get a lot of stuff volunteered.
That's painful.
Yeah.
That's just very, very painful. Yeah? Who wants to be in contact with an old pain that I once wasn't able to bear and to integrate, but that I had to cut off? But we see in the chart everything is about integration, everything which has been cut off. Yes? Can you see that? I mean, so we need like to, you know, prepare some things, you know, otherwise, you know.
I mean, feel that you might be right and I might be unconscious about it, but I feel that more than having a trauma coming from my mom and my dad, I had a trauma coming from the society, which was more judgment. They were more judgmental on me because I had great support from my father, and I had problems with my mother because she wanted me to be like a perfect body type person, and obviously I didn't. And so with my mom, I had more encounters, but my family relationship, even though I do something that they don't understand at all, it's coming, I think, through my change, to a very interesting meeting where we can, the family is okay. We get along very well, even though we're extremely different and we're all fired there. So I right now that I'm going through this process of acknowledging that finally I find a place in society, finally, because of what I'm doing, and finally they're listening to me somehow. I feel that what is feeling more is my extreme resentment with that society. I have extreme resentment with that society. I think you could see the right thing.
I heard, I think, near the beginning of what you're saying, something you said just went ding. When you said your mother, what were your words again? You said about
She has more problems with the mother because the mother tried her to fit into a certain
body and Pluto.
That's why I'm asking where's the trauma.
Right,
And I didn't get a response.
No, I think, personally, and I know this is like a delicate subject, but I think your mother's words and how she felt about that has a much bigger impact on you than you want to be conscious of.
Yes.
No, it is. Obviously, she...
But this is huge.
Yes,
Is what I'm trying to say.
Yes, I know.
And I think there was, I felt a defense mechanism kicking in when you put it back into society. I think this is true also, but I think...
The real issue is mother.
Right.
The real issue is only and only mother.
But couldn't there be a possibility that I have worked through that already?
Yeah. But now Neptune is on the fourth house cusp. You've prepared. Now the healing comes.
Oh, okay.
But the healing is a pure emotional healing. Before there was work on that, more or less mentally. Yeah? Yeah? Getting the big picture, getting it, changing the integration factor and all that. Yeah?
Yes, definitely.
Because when Neptune is in the third,
Venus?
Venus and Scorpio, I mean, that Scorpio being there, to be really hidden from herself, and she doesn't even realize.
See, just...
See how it's going to affect your actual physical being.
And the relationship, her inner relationship towards her physical being.
Yeah. So that may be very, very cool. I'm like feeling like my heart is just...
Venus and Pisces.
Yeah.
But also, Uli, couldn't she get to it herself by some of the childhood illnesses or things that she had?
Yeah.
Would give it kind of like a printout?
Yeah, that's one possibility. See, when I was asking what kind of trauma, one trauma is just because Aquarius is in the fourth house cusp. Yeah? It's emotional trauma linked to emotional security, period. Then we go onto Saturn, so we can say, yeah, judgmental trauma, so, a necessity to suppress the emotional reality as you were, because otherwise you would have been judged, because you would have shown Aquarius what your individual is, but that didn't fit into the, you were not allowed, because we have the conjunction South Node in Aquarius in the third house, to express what you are, yeah? Or you have to, become like quite rebellious about it. Now we skip over. We're still in responding to the question, what are the traumas about? Yeah? Saturn is in conjunct to that Pluto, which is also linked to the fourth house, because Uranus, the ruler of the fourth house, stands conjuncting that. And Pluto is the ruler of what house? First house, physical body. Yeah? So we see a mother that has been put her on a certain trip. If she doesn't fit in certain expectations, yeah, she does not deserve a one's nurturing. Yeah?
And Saturn is squaring that, the first house.
Yeah.
It also makes her want to hide more of her.
There are two reactions to that. The one is a reaction going onto a level where she is stronger than the mother, which is mental. And more or less aligning with the father. Become good friend of father. Yeah, the father is, there's, the son, hold on. The sun is like in the second house, so we're supported, There was also an attraction between the two. Why? Because the mom, Because she's a girl, and the mom herself, is still in a state of complete sexual trauma. Complete sexual trauma.
The mom?
Yeah. Fourth house. That's mother. And Uranus stands conjuncting Pluto. What is a mother about? She needs to be on a constant criticism, and Pluto control trip, and did reject the daughter because the daughter reminded her of her own female that she didn't want to deal with. So the father was living together with a woman that was emotionally at some points not available. Yeah? Now Gloria kicked in.
Much more,
Yeah? Gloria, this, warm-hearted, fresh blood kind of, bright person. Not only hooked on beauty outside. Do you know all these Gucci models? Yeah? In the generation of, my generation in Pluto, Libra. Yeah? They tried so much to cover by being like having a certain appearance. Yeah? You know what I mean? That's like the taste that I get with his mother. Yeah? And inside, there's like a refrigerator. Even though she's a doll, she's a sweetheart. But very, very wounded. Very, very wounded. Yeah? On a sexual female basis. Yeah?
What about the inconjunction of the fourth house?
It's not by degree, but it's by sign. That would restate it again. Yeah?
I know I said this a couple of times before, but it's like screaming at me how important the sensuality and stuff and your physical body image, that you're comfortable with exactly the way you want it. Because I think
she is. Not even want it. She is.
Yeah.
Actually, I always struggled with my body because I was, I was too big for my Ecuadorians. They're not very tall, so I was big and I was big. And so it was very strange. So I was grown up meant to feel bad about my body. But after I worked with myself, I got to the point that, hey, I really enjoy it, and I'm fat, big. But I do with my body what I wanted to do. I do sports and I do everything. So I feel good with it.
It's interesting because I never think of you as fat.
No.
You don't project this kind of image
No.
at all.
No.
But was there a point when you were younger, maybe, when you kind of hid behind your body a little bit towards your
It was a
mother?
Yeah.
Your mother? I can feel like your body's a buffer.
Exactly. That's exactly the truth. Keep in mind, she has more or less inherited the own rejection of the mother towards the female. What is the ruler of inheriting things? Scorpio ruler is? Where stands the ruler of the fourth house in conjunction with? Yeah? And that's the ruler of her first house. Make sense? The mother rejected her female. That's a family history story, if you want to zoom into that, with a Saturn and a South Node. Yeah? So in order to more or less come along, with the father was supportive, but also for his own reasons. Yeah? Because the mother very often was emotionally not available. Not available. In terms of, intimate relationship. Yeah? That made the mother jealous. Yeah? That the father liked the daughter. I'm talking about energies.
No, yes, it's true.
So the mother tried to, put a revenge on the daughter. Yeah? Because, you know what I mean?
Yes.
Yeah?
Very true.
And now we go back to Neptune on the fourth house cusp, healing her emotional body from early childhood trauma, linked to her sexuality, her gender, her role in the family, no matter what she did, and she's a very ambitious lady, Mars in the 10th house, working hard, going her own way, da-da-da-da-da-da, but a part is still waiting to be embraced and loved.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah? What part is it? The little inner child, yeah? And her physical body. Where we find Neptune is the natural way where we can heal / spiritualize. Neptune in the first house shows via the physical body. Yeah? Make sense? But because in many lifetimes she was taught / suppressed to sacrifice all the needs of her physical body. That made her split from incredible intuition, Jupiter, which only goes by her, in her case, via the emotional body in Pisces, and the sensual body being the ruler of the second house. By that she got disconnected from her strength. Make sense? Castrated from her strength. Become a functioning alien, workaholic or, slave. Can you see that? Because before she was too wise. This lady is strong. Yeah. But the biggest strength in her is her emotional body, not her mind. And the link between the emotional body, Jupiter in Pisces, is repeated by a moon in the 9th house in Cancer, and her senses. So that's the solution in this life. She needs to re-embrace that. That's why God put it this way, that Neptune right now is in the 4th house cusp, while Pluto is squaring Pluto. Yeah? On the one hand, we have this road construction with all this shit coming up. On the other hand, there's the Divine Mother, Neptune, 4th house, healing the emotional body while the shit comes up.
Also, the ancient, when we did Gloria's chart, when Jeff did it, the ancient natural woman was the shape that Gloria is. And so maybe if you had those images around your house, that this is your throwback.
Yeah.
I see myself every day on the mirror.
Yeah. But on the other hand, there will come emotional memories and pain up. No? Where now the challenge is, with a nodal axis return, to integrate these unresolved memories from a bigger point of view, with more kind of, holistic knowledge, to integrate in her life what has been cut off. Without her female being integrated, the crisis will stay. Does it make sense?
Once a female is integrated, I would actually access that intuition in a stronger way, I guess.
In a milder, sweeter, gracefuler way. And by that, it becomes stronger.
Yeah.
Grace. Huh? Gracefuler. Mercury in the South Node. Create my own words.
So then, since she's been doing with her mind all before then, and that was still very, very strong.
Incredible.
How does she take her mind and now this is my question, now combine it with when this comes up, because she has this mind.
Good question.
Because I was just telling you, she did a tarot, she's doing tarot readings the other day, and when she had something physical in her hands and stuff like that, I felt this more
Uniting. Yeah. See, yeah.
Something like that, methods like that, something.
One way for her, relative to the chart, is via touch with her hands. So what you observed, South Node in Aquarius, what you observed is actually true. As soon as she touches things with her hands and allows herself, instead of, having this mind thing going on, via the central thing, to ask with her mind, Mercury, her body, how do I feel? Does it feel warm, cold, big, strong? Yep. She then is revalidating her power or strength of intuition. By that she will get more and more pictures that will not be just like mind overflowers, but she will sense it all over. She will have the living proof that when she is on this flow, she will experience a complete inner state of peace and joy. That's the proof for her. Can you see that?
And that's what I do actually. I do body work and I work with my hands. I have always felt that in the kind of work I do, my consciousness or my mind is stronger in my hands. I don't think with this one, it doesn't serve me very much. I think with this.
What kind of body work do you do?
A variety. Acupressure, cranial psychotherapy, Jinshin Jitsu, etc. Yes, that's how I learned more through experiencing than through sitting and studying.
Now, the sexual thing,
The sexual
it
thing.
really delved into really sort of sensuality. All this body work what he's doing is going to be magnetized.
But this is also this issue of reaching the higher self of through the body and not through talking.
Yes.
But going directly to the spiritual body of your client through touching it. Resonating with their body.
So, well, we just had to back up to understand this Neptune in the fourth house cusp. Yeah? With healing and spiritual energy, to see what needs to be healed. What is in the process of healing right now. Yeah? You see?
The more you feel, the more they feel.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah? And therefore she always needs to be centered within herself. Yeah? What is good and true for her. Yeah? The transiting South Node is going through a fourth house, while we see that Pluto is going through the second house, Neptune being on the fourth house cusp. Uranus has just kicked this Saturn. No? Uranus makes square to Venus. Square to Venus. Oops. And Neptune. What degree is your... it's 5 degree, right?
5 degrees.
Good. That is done. And makes inconjunct to the moon. That's what I call, the repeating stories in a chart. Now we know what we're going to talk about with her when she comes in, and if she wants to talk about career and all that, we say, baby, hold on. Yeah? First, the very basis of your life, and then we look into a career. Because the career issues we see will come later. When Pluto hits like the sun, rule of the 10th. No? It's an issue now, but it could be only a cover story. Why? Because she's learned in previous lives and in his childhood, Saturn, career, on the fourth house cusp, on the node, yeah, that to very often, instead of, dealing with the emotional pain, to, go for what is expected / to get into a social position. Of course, there's a... Yeah. And especially because Mars, the ruler of your 6th house, going to the 12th house. Squaring your nodes.
So that's the sickness.
Where are you sick?
Throat.
Throat?
Throat, chest, and I have a...
You point here. You point here and say throat.
Yeah, throat, chest,
Throat.
I have chest condition and throat and cold. Mixture of this here and chest condition.
That's all the... I always try to remember this name. Upper respiratory kind of organ. What is the link there? What is upper respiratory in a chart? Mercury and? Uranus or fourth house, da 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 da.
I was intuitively getting a feeling to put like maybe 5 drops of Sanical in your water. I mean, to give that to you to put in your water.
It gave me a headache the other day.
Oh, did it? No, but in the water, just like a drop. It was only a drop or two. It was all just only a little bit. But I was thinking because of that. I don't know. I was just looking at that Mars in the 12th house.
It gave you a headache because you have to break up your mind before it can affect the other stuff.
Really?
Yes, because this is the Scorpio chemical story. Yeah. That would be very good for you.
Okay, thank you.
I want it to be step by step, but can you see how it works a little bit? Yeah? I mean, I don't want to start like step by step again, but I look onto the Pluto in the first place. Now I see that as next thing in this, very center that she's going through, South Node going to fourth house. So what comes up on a daily life issue. Let's integrate the south node north node transit for a second.
Can you do that like reversion thing of like you said, like the first step with the transits, how you do that?
I just did it. I start with Pluto, yeah, and usually I then start to already integrate the transiting south node and north node. But because I see another trans-Saturnian planet being on the 4th house cusp, that's major priority. Neptune on the 4th house cusp. Yeah? So, it was integrating this Neptune that something becomes healed in the female inner child's emotional body. And then we just have to detour because, of the unresolved traumas that have to do with the, criticism of the mother, the rejection of the mother, of her own rejection, rejection of the physical body. So we have an emotional, physical abuse scenario. Yeah? Period. So we're talking about abuse. No? From my point of view, because that's not evolutionary astrology, but it goes back to Tab Man. The 9th house, and I don't go there like too deep, I'm not good in it. 9th house is conception, 10th house is how the father reacted when father and mother reacted when they figured out that there is a baby coming, pregnancy. This is the prenatal phase. Prenatal. So there has been, in the prenatal phase, has been already a emotional shock, or that the mother felt that she wants to reject the baby.
Yeah, she didn't want me.
Yeah. Yeah.
Why didn't she want to?
Because the story I don't think I'm going to do it very short. My mom and my dad got married. They were both widows. My father lost all his family, including children, and my mother lost her husband. And they got married, I think, through similar experiences of having natural experiences. So they married too soon, I think. So a year after my father's wife and his 2 children died. And they got me pregnant, I guess, in when you go honeymoon. But they didn't get along very well, so they separated. I went 6 months when I was in there, and I knew my mother didn't want me because they didn't get along. It's like, what a mistake I made, and all those things.
During the honeymoon, they came along. It was a lovely honeymoon.
Yeah.
And the mom was desiring to have a baby.
Yes.
But then after honeymoon,
Yeah, after honeymoon.
then the problem started.
Yes. After the honeymoon.
So she was like, like this.
And she negated when I had a rebirthing through dream that happened to me naturally, and I realized that my mother didn't want me. It was awful. I woke up at the same time I was born. It was really hard. So I went and faced her and said, "You didn't want me." And she lied to me. It was because she had to her facade. How can I not want my child? But I knew it.
Saturn on 4th house cusp. The fear of judgment. Yeah? To keep up the appearance. Relative to what, society tells us every mother has to love a child. With the background story of this mother, relative to, her own kind of things. Yeah? Anyway. Yeah. So where were we? Oh, prenatal thing. Yeah? So, but I look onto Pluto, Neptune, Uranus, Saturn. What is happening there? And of course I start with Pluto, as we did. And then, having an idea what is going on here, I then integrate the south node and north node in transit. Because this is very likely where the client experiences this whole shit. Because it's the south node transit of the moon. That means the egocentric lens in this life. Where the south node is transiting through, house, sign, is where the client is experiencing dynamics in his personal life that come back into consciousness because they're not completed / finished, unresolved. Where the north node is transiting is where in every given moment he can make a change, meaning to react differently, to create a new orientation relative to his reaction patterns, south node transit, that he got emotionally used to,
South Node transit. Yeah? Very often we react to the new challenges or the old files being unresolved in the old way. Then we stay in the South Node area. Make sense? The North Node shows where we can make a break, where we say, no, I don't react to this old shit anymore. But that needs an emotional, because we're talking about the nodes of the moon, an emotional change. You know? So the house sign where the North Node is transiting through is where the client has to focus on making a change on the emotional relative reaction to the now kind of life or daily life problems. The natal ruler of the sign where the South Node is transiting through, natal ruler, shows what the problem really has to do with. Yeah? So maybe right now Gloria is dealing with South Node transit through the 4th house, with issues of home, homeland, yeah? Mother, yeah? All those kind of things. That's her main focus, South Node in transit. But what the problem really is about is Uranus in Virgo conjuncting in the 11th house. That's a different issue. Can you see? Of course it is linked. It does have to do with what? Let's say she comes into the counseling office and goes like, you know, I want to move, I have problems with my mom, da 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 da. You know, she's talking about 4th house, we sit Neptune, Uranus there, the transiting South Node. You know? But with this technique from Jeffrey, we also see that the real root of the problem she's dealing with right now in her 4th house is located in the 11th house in Virgo conjuncting Pluto, Pluto being the ruler of the 1st house. So we might not respond to her request about home. We might tell her what it really has to do with. No? With the emotional memories of being physically rejected. Because being a female. Yeah?
Is there a core sense of aloneness, you know?
Of course. Inner aloneness.
And then being made to feel bad because of that aloneness, like you caused it because of your body?
Not only made feel bad, but you just naturally feel bad because of that. Because, see, it's not that she has nothing within herself, but she was forced to cut it off or to go in total polarization to her inner wisdom that she has in her emotional body, Jupiter opposing Pluto, being the ruler of the 2nd house. Yeah? By that she was not allowed to be self-sustained, and whenever she tried to live self-sustained, Jupiter, ruler of the 2nd house, yeah? She got into polarization to group work, yeah? Family members, and all that. Which again is the picture for the inner stress.
Would we want to know, because it has to do with her mother and her mother's containment of this secret?
Yeah.
Something about the proximity of the Uranus to her Pluto? If there's a 7 degree, if she may be carrying something that the mother, and do you know anything about your mother and what happened prior to your...
Well, I feel that ever since I was born until maybe when I was 29 or 30, I had this sorrow that I was carrying on with me that I didn't know where it came from. This deep sorrow beyond my own emotional wounds. And doing my inner work, I realized that sorrow and that deep sorrow was my mother's. And my dad too.
Yes, both. Both.
But do you know specifically for what?
For what reason? My mother, for their loss, the loss that they had on their family.
Exactly.
Wow.
Exactly. You sacrifice or you atone for the grief and for the guilt, the feeling of guilt and the feeling of left alone that your mother had.
And my dad too.
And your dad.
Really, that's in her body, right? It's like
That's energetically in her body.
her body is carrying that sorrow that's carrying her.
See, that's why I love this family sculpturing so much. No? Even though it seems to be patriarchal, but here that's a classical case that a young-born baby started to energetically, emotionally identify with something of the mother's side. And she's trying to take the responsibility for that. Yeah? For the loss of the mother's relationship. Yeah?
It's like because of the union symbols in the first house, Venus,
Yeah?
it's like their union was a union of sorrow, and she like became the union of sorrow.
Yeah.
United it in
Yeah.
herself.
Very good. Yeah. On the other hand, because, I love to combine that again with evolutionary astrology, there were so many lifetimes where she detached from what her joy was. What could have that been? If you look into the chart, what was one previous life where the sorrows that Gloria's mom has been carrying and still carrying, and that Gloria identified with, has something to do with her soul herself. And that's what? The enforced loss of her own children. Can you see that? Yeah? Enforced loss of her own children.
Gloria's own children in a prior life. Gloria's own children in a prior life.
Gloria?
My children.
Who's? Gloria. Yeah. 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 Where did you see that? Yeah? Yeah. Neptune's the ruler of the fifth house. Yeah? We do have a religious ritual with that. There was one time. Or that's what I see. There was another reason.
Is it with a girl?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And another reason.
Incest? Well, if she was a nun and she had a baby.
To me, it seems that she had had intercourse, as once again a secret affair, with someone whose family was a different status than hers. Yeah? So in order not to have to be with this asshole or be judged by that family, yeah, to get it out of her body, to re-embrace her independency, yeah, you know what I mean? To be free.
Different status because of Saturn, or why? Different status of them because of Saturn.
Yeah.
I mean, she feels so guilty afterwards that she would do something. Like,
Yeah.
like
Yeah. Okay. Let's roll the ball. Even if we're not right now, that it really actually happened, like in one time, we embrace the archetypes right now. Yeah. So something within her gets a vibration, gets a memory. So when she did, yeah, or wasn't forced to cut it off, which goes back to the emotional family betrayal issue. Yeah. Maybe that the mom told her the technique how to cut it off of the body, and then she did it. How was then her inner relationship to her own physical body after that, relative to natural law? Huh? Totally disgusted. Yeah? No matter if she did it or she wasn't forced to, And by that was the next reaction to that. I feel dirty. What is then the reaction? Relative to the belief patterns in those times.
Dirty and guilty.
Dirty and guilty. So I deserve what? Punishment, crises, atonement.
And to be ostracized, too.
Ostracized means?
Taken away.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
What times were they?
We're talking about the Middle Ages. I mean, there has been happening some stuff before. Yeah?
The Middle Ages, I'm sorry.
12th century.
Virgo, Pisces. Yeah?
In the Middle Ages, the only way for a woman to really actualize herself intellectually was to become a nun of some kind.
A nun and before a prostitute. Did you see the movie Dangerous Beauty? Yeah? The worst thing for your business was to become pregnant. Yeah? So in order to stay independent and to be able to have the business and the access to libraries and a chitter-chatter to powerful people and to see what they're doing secretly behind the curtains of official appearance. Yeah? She could not allow to be a mother. So in order for her to be what she wanted to be relative to the soul structure, she needs to totally cut off her female side because it was not wanted by the society. That's the reason why she comes into a family with all these problems relative to her female. That's why attracting a mom, which is a sweetheart, that has very similar problems, where she kicks in and atones for that. Yeah? And that becomes healed right now. Make sense? Yeah? And one thing that I see essentially will be a certain way of work with children. Essentially.
Couldn't it be that she even got killed by punishment, killed because of that, probably by drowning?
Yep.
Probably by what?
But she also, from my point of view, she also died one time by enforced group sex.
So you were right, I don't know about that. I thought I didn't know anything about it.
The Saturn signature and incest father molestation?
In previous lives, yeah. In this life, I think because we're dealing with this South Node Saturn in Aquarius, we're dealing that there was a mental/emotional. Yeah, it was never done physically, but
In this life, you're talking?
in this life. In previous life, yes, it happened. It was, but see, that was like a habit. When I give readings in Italy, like north of Italy, still in the mountains, which are half Germans or German-speaking, half Italians, every fucking chart I get is incest. Every.
It's natural in certain levels of
Yes.
consensus.
Yeah.
It happens.
And it's a heavy Catholic area there, where everything you could eat from the roads, as clean it is. Everything is da 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 da. Father molests this boy, totally normal. When boy, screaming, beats him down, imprisons him like, in the yard, da da da. Stories. This current life.
And are they individuated, these people you see, or are they...
They're so highly conditioned by the fear of, social judgment. It's like as if you walk like in a monastery where everyone is jerking off in the closet secretly, but everyone is pretending to be like, proper. It's horrible to be there.
Did you bring those issues up with them?
Sure. Like after my first visit, my name was really down to the shit. Oh, he's the sexual perverse, da 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 da. And then, I guess 2 months later, this Monica that does the family sculpturing, did a workshop there. And most of the clients that I give reading to, they did this family sculpturing, and in all cases, it came up.
Do they realize what's going on with everybody else, or do they think it's just themselves? I mean, do they accept it in society, or is it all completely hidden?
Well, from my perception, it's a complete taboo. So no one would ever talk about that. Everybody thinks, it's just a unique case, And because it's so painful, and there's so much logical reasoning given to these children why it happens, that they don't even, remember that it happened.
Have you already spoke to the group about the family sculpturing?
No.
Is this an appropriate time, place?
At the very end. At the very end, yeah.
Can I ask Gloria, if you don't mind, to say, because you said about children, to say something about what you told me about your nephew and also your relationship with him, what he does? Because he's right into your chart.
Oh, well, I taught him how to do massage, and he's a 1.5-year-old baby, and he can stand in a 1-hour session massaging, giving massages. Just astounding to see him.
How old is he?
1.5.
He has Pluto in Sagittarius.
He does. Look at the connection with the chart.
Yeah.
Can you maybe say something about the Saturn in squaring, because it's squaring Saturn is opposing that, and it's also trining Pluto, so I think Saturn is
But see, imagine the transiting planets as musicians in an orchestra.
Okay.
You know? The one who really gives the underlying bass is Pluto. Yeah?
He's the director?
No, it's not the director. No.
First violin.
No. It's like, you know,
Oh, okay.
it's, you know, every other musician has to play like him.
Yeah.
Yeah? It's like when you hear a symphony, it's like the same kind of tonart. Fuck it. Whatever. Tonada. Yeah. Thank you. Yeah. Tonality. Right. That's like Pluto. So to understand this Saturn transit, if you read Robert Hand's book, yeah, Saturn transiting Saturn, you might get some insights, the other might be true. But relative to what is happening right now in your life in terms of soul's evolution, relative to the South Node transiting, yeah? By the way, we have to offer her, before we skip over to the Saturn, how shall she deal with the North Node in transit? Did you come along with transiting North Node, South Node stuff?
Yeah. Louis, can I, to back it up just a bit, there was something that Jeffrey was talking about earlier, is the implied issue versus the actual issue. Do you remember?
That's what I mean.
When he was talking about the, I didn't get him 100% clear on that.
Okay, once again.
Actual issue versus implied issue, which was, it's actually in the planetary ruler.
Yeah, I already explained that like 5 minutes ago. But once again.
I know, I just wanted to...
Once again. There where South Node is transiting, house sign, is where it appears that the problems are happening. But what it actually has to do with, I'm talking about the transit of the South Node. Yeah? South Node transit through house and sign. Yeah? That's the area where we think it is happening, where we experience it. Imagine South Node transits your 6th house. You might have now problems with your, you know, colleagues at work, with work issues, health issues, da-da-da. Yeah? This is the area where you see it, where you think, oh, there's the problem. But what it really has to do with is the ruler in-house sign aspects, yeah, of the sign that the South Node is transiting.
So is that like the underlying?
Yeah. So your health issues and problems at work right now, South Node transit through the 6th house, have in reality to do maybe with the Uranus standing in the 4th house. Yeah? Emotional issues, family issues, mother issues, female issues, security issues, yeah? But you transport it, or, you know, you think like, oh, it's work issues. Got it?
Yeah.
And the same thing for the North Node in transit. This is the life area where you can obviously work on for an improvement, or, you know, to integrate, or right now integrate, or to, you know, break the old patterns of reaction. But how you can do that? How? What? You can do it both. Yeah?
No, I meant as far as you start second house stuff.
No, both.
Okay.
Both. It's like it's happening in every moment. Keep in mind the nodes are our breathing rhythm. Yeah? It's happening in every moment. In and out. Yeah? So we can even predict, when the South Node in transit will hit glorious Saturn. No? That in this time, her breathing will stop after exhaling.
You're dying? I mean, is that true?
Yeah? What happens when you experience emotional abuse?
Stop breathing.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah. On the in or on the out? Does that make a difference?
Some people this way, some people that way. It makes a difference. Sometimes you don't have oxygen then in the lungs.
No, it makes a difference whether it's in or out. Because one more fear-oriented and one...
I've not thought about that.
Like in some of the, like yogic meditation things, there's a difference.
Yeah, there is a difference.
One's anxiety. If you hold it when you breathe in, it's anxiety. When you hold it when you breathe out, it's more of a depressive.
Yeah, yeah, could be, yeah. Or that she's going like, through a couple days of depression, Saturn. You got it? So the North Node is like the life area relative to the Sun in the second house. So what, if we talk with her, could we counsel, making her work, the technique. Is the technique clear?
Yeah. So right now, everybody, Uranus.
Right. Everybody's Uranus right now in natal placements shows what the real problems are. What we're dealing with unresolved issues relative to a South Node transiting through our Aquarius, wherever that in the house is. Everyone's. And before, because South Node was transiting Pisces, it was all Neptune. Huh? So what can we tell her now relative to the North Node? Transiting the 10th house?
To trust her intuition, that will bring her the security base on an emotional level through her emotional body, and to trust her intuition and what it's telling her about her own emotional body and being as far as physical.
Mm-hmm.
Where are you getting intuition? We're looking at that North Node.
And she jumped already to the ruler, the natal ruler, which is the Sun in Sagittarius. Yep, that's one. Now, I pretend I'm Gloria and say, you know what, sometimes I have these, light bulbs into my brain, and I see, pictures, or I experience insecurity, I'm afraid of death, and, there's some death issues in my life right now. Of course, she's talking about this here. Yeah? How shall I handle that? That would be the moment when we can give her advice, North Node. Sun in the second.
Validate it, know it to be true by pointing out exactly what you pointed out. That in itself is healing, I think, as far as knowing that
Okay.
why.
Okay. Accept the truth.
Accept it.
See it from the big picture, that this is like memories from, death experience in your childhood. Mm-hmm. Yeah? What else?
Did she met her child?
No. Oh, is it a resolution thing that you offer right now? Okay, I'm sorry, yeah?
She met this child somehow from the past life?
What?
The child that she aborted or whatever she did, is she met that child?
Yeah. That's one possibility, but but we have to give her a possibility in every moment, North Node. What else?
If she has any desire that she needs to act them out, or I don't know.
What if she kept a journal of all these every time it came up?
That's very possible.
And she just wrote it all down and didn't try to dismiss it.
Yes.
Because she wants to get to the bottom of it.
Exactly.
So if she just had an evil journal or whatever she wanted to
Yeah, or anxiety journal.
Or a little black.
Yeah. Or my emotional roller coaster journey.
Right.
Yeah?
Yeah.
This is true because Mercury is conjuncting the Sun, the ruler of the transiting North Node. So we can do it, yeah. Everything that we can now help her in every given moment when this shit comes up, when she experiences that we re-empower her, that she's in charge of her own life. Yeah? To sometimes even need time, 10th house, to reflect 10th house. Yeah? Step by step. In order to go forward, you need to embrace the past. Yeah? And to then validate it, what is going on, to understand it now from a big picture, maybe by writing it down first. Yeah? And to integrate the pain by a decision of improving her life, to strengthen her life, to be focused on vitality. Everything that gives her vitality right now is the right way. Everything which gives her emotional down kind of, death experience is not where she shall be focused on. That comes anyway. You know what I mean? Yeah? Sport. Healthy eating. Yeah? Touching herself.
Wouldn't hurt for her to get some body work.
No, not at all. It's actually what she needs.